Yeah, Niall Strange post, the political and media discourse in the U.S. over Palestine is framed in a way that is so disconnected from public sentiment. Is Israel committing a genocide against Palestinian civilians? Yes, 43%. No, 28%. America's under 30. Yes, 55%. No, 21%. I mean, those numbers should even be higher. And I think how low those numbers are clearly indicate that people are still duped, because you're asking people not their opinion necessarily, but like you're asking people about a truth, whether they recognize a truth or not. That's what's so crazy. In most TV news and panels discussing the Mideast, both cable and broadcast news, every commentator is either pro-Israel or neutral. Very rarely do you see pro-Palestine voice on TV, and even rarer, a Palestinian. New York Times had a front-page news story authored by a former Israeli intelligence officer without any journalism experience. It turned out to be full of fabrications, but you can imagine the New York Times ever hiring a former Palestinian intelligence official to write for the news section? Of course not. Yeah. Oh, there's also this as well. Now confirmed that this episode led 60 Minutes to be stripped of its editorial independence and led to the selling of CBS to David Ellison, who now plans to merge the company with Bari Weiss and the Free Press. 60 Minutes put out this video, if you guys recall, later, after the fact, months after the fact, across the now decimated Gaza Strip. America's mark is everywhere. In the footage shot by CBS News in May, the ground is littered with U.S.-made ammunition casings, some used to prop up tents, others turned into playthings by children. Here is the report. Shari Redstone hoped Trump's 60 Minutes suit would root out anti-Israel bias at CBS News, and she sold Paramount partly over October 7. Redstone told The Times that for years she had resisted entreaties from potential suitors eager to buy Paramount. What pushed her finally to agree to sell the family business was the October 7th massacre of an estimated 1,200 Israelis. Now, let me tell you something. Why is there this much fucking power in the hands of one person? Why are we at the mercy of a bunch of freak-ass billionaires, bro? That's so crazy to me. There should be some kind of safeguard against this. You know what I mean? But of course, because this kind of power accumulation is a normal part of capitalism, that you got a bunch of oligarchs who could just be insane. You could have an oligarch who's like, sorry, dog, I saw October 7, am Israel high, sucks to suck. Anyone that ever criticizes Israel going forward is done. And I'm going to tank this fucking entire media institution because they're not sufficiently pro-Israel. That is crazy. That is a crazy thing. They should not have this kind of power. A billionaire should not be able to single-handedly decide that one of the increasingly small sliver of media giants is now going to merge and become more pro-Israel than they already were. That's crazy. That's crazy. Once that happened, I wanted out, she told The Times. I wanted to support Israel and address the issues around anti-Semitism and racism. She told The Times that her breaking point came just before she withdrew from settlement talks with Trump in January this year. CBS aired a 60-minute segment featuring State Department officials who quit over American support for Israel's Gaza war, a piece the American Jewish Committee blasted as shockingly one-sided, lacked factual accuracy, and relied heavily on misguided information. Redstone wasn't alone in her concerns. Days after the segment aired, George Cheeks, who oversees CBS, shared Redstone's dismay about the Gaza episode. Yeah, Cheeks is right. Who shared Redstone's dismay about the Gaza episode and soon appointed veteran producer Susan Zirinsky as executive editor to review 60-minute segments, stripping the show of its traditional independence from corporate interference. In April, the longtime executive producer of 60 Minutes, Bill Owens, departed after Zirinsky's appointment undermined his autonomy. It is now confirmed that the Gaza episode led to 60 Minutes being stripped of its editorial independence and led to the selling of CBS to David Ellison, who now plans to merge the company with Bari Weiss and the Free Press. Bari Weiss only has a media career because she's a fucking Israel dick rider. Okay, that's it. She was at the New York Times. She's a repulsive little monster and made an entire career talking about cancel culture and how the left is so shit, while simultaneously invoking the worst versions of cancel culture on anyone who was remotely a critic of Israel. Her Free Press outlet routinely does fucking hit pieces on me, relying on information that was compiled by the previous pedophile sex pest cult that I just showed you, Sex Pest in his community. Like, literally, they just straight up have like DGG points on Free Press. That's how fucking ridiculous that outlet is. And they work directly with the state of Israel at a time when there is very little confidence in the veracity of news media, in mainstream news, at a time when mainstream news is most necessary as a resource to speak truth to power. The fact that these guys are just like, yeah, the most unimaginable pro-Israel outlets out there, American news media, is not sufficiently fucking pro-Israel, so I'm selling it, is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, Ryan Grimm has a good take on this. It's not enough to get free weapons and political cover to carry out a genocide. Israel and its backers in the U.S. must also destroy any institution, no matter how long it has operated, like 60 Minutes here, that dares to moderately criticize the project once. That's why I say, like, if you think you hate Israel enough, like, you don't have enough smoke. Here's Tim Dillon.
Political fallout from this scandal, it would be monumental, and it would affect some of the wealthiest people in the world and our relationships with different countries, namely Israel. I mean, unless we're all completely wrong here and that Jeffrey Epstein was not at all connected to the Mossad. But it seems he was. It seems he was. So again, it would call into question this relationship that we've had with our, quote, greatest ally for a very long time. That can't happen. I don't care how many, Bari Weiss, whose company is, sold.
Barry has no audience. How can shareholders feel at all confident in his plan? It doesn't matter. She has power players. She has the eye of the most important audience. Their numbers are very marginal. Billionaires. Billionaires love her shit. They think she's fucking brilliant. So while CBS's numbers tank when they do this kind of insane fucking collaboration, it still won't matter, because for a lot of billionaires, like, they understand something that the online liberal and the online leftists do not. The value of propaganda. Why the fuck do you think the Wilkes brothers, the oil tycoon, fossil fuel industry giants, have funded both PragerU and the Daily Wire? They know how important it is to just constantly pump out bullshit and delude people to the best of their fucking ability. So as long as they subsidize her fucking idiotic operation, even if it's on CBS and it has no fucking real audience, it doesn't matter. They'll fucking try to do everything they can to create motion around her.
Now he's going to sell to CBS for $3 trillion or something. Larry Ellison's son's buying the Free Press. The very important Free Press blog that is on Substack is worth $250 million.
Yes,
and I like Barry, but the free, the one that gets...
I don't.
It's like 7,500 views on YouTube. That powerhouse conglomerate media company is worth $250 million. By the way, so the Tim Dillon show is apparently worth $1 billion. Hello, Miriam. Where's my fucking money? $300 million, $250 million for Bari Weiss's blog, in which she interviewed megastar Ross Douthat from the New York Times about why conspiracies have taken the hold of the American mind. And Ross goes, well, the thing about conspiracies is there's an element of truth. Not in this one. There's not an element of truth. It's all truth. It's all the elements of all of the truth. It's not a kernel of truth. It's lots of kernels in a bag of popcorn.
The State Department fired a spokesman for Israel-Palestinian affairs because he drafted a statement clarifying that the United States government opposes ethnic cleansing. What a proud legacy for Marco Rubio. The State Department fired his top press officer for the Israeli-Palestinian affairs following multiple disputes over how to characterize key Trump administration policies, including a controversial plan to relocate hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip that critics consider ethnic cleansing, according to U.S. officials and documents reviewed by the Washington Post. Monday's firing occurred days after an internal debate about releasing a statement to the news media that said, "We do not support forced displacement of Palestinians in Gaza." Shahid Qureshi drafted the line, which resembled previous remarks made by Donald Trump and Middle East Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who said in February the United States would not pursue an eviction plan for Gaza. State Department leadership vetoed the move, instructing officials to cut the line marked in red and clear, according to a memo dated last week. Incredible. Incredible stuff, man. It's just so fucking repulsive, dude. We are villains. This is like Google deleting "do no evil" from their company motto, Actually, evil is fine, says Google. Google came out and was like, actually, we're fucking pro-evil. What do you mean, do no evil? I was wrong about that shit. What the fuck was I saying? Don't listen to me. I love evil. As a matter of fucking fact. Yeah, do no evil, more like do evil. We took out the more, or we took out the no. Do more evil. It's an inevitability that every single for-profit institution, unless they're like a one-off, is always going to put profits over the interests of people. That's it. There are no safeguards. The only way that you could actually democratize this process is if workers had a say. That's why you see so many people doing sit-ins and protests internally at places like Microsoft, because they're like, this is unconscionable that like Microsoft is compiling data for the Israeli government so they can use it to like create assassination targets and shit. That's it. That's it. Really fucked up.